Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are the Batman. My name is Mike.
And this is Matthew.
And today we are, this is the second time we've had to do this now, but we are making tribute to a member of the Batman universe who has now departed us. Comic book artist Tim Sale passed away on June 16th at the age of 66, which is incredibly too young. And
Yes.
I thought it would be nice to just talk about some of the work that he's worked on, particularly with Batman. Matt, what do you know about Tim Sale?
Tim Sale, I think, like a lot of people, he first kind of comes to my real attention when he does the Long Halloween
Mm,
with Jeff Loeb on Batman, and then of course they do the sequel to that. They do the Superman Man of All Seasons, if memory serves. If that's the correct name, I can't remember if it was For All Season or Of All Seasons.
it's for all seasons.
Okay, and then I don't think I read the Daredevil thing they did, just because Daredevil traditionally not my guy. But I just like they said, I think I'm more of the Batman Long Halloween fan to be honest with you.
Yeah, the Long Halloween. You hear Batman: The Long Halloween, everyone's ears prick up. I mean, that's one of the quintessential Batman story arcs, and Tim Sale's work with. I mean, he and Jeff Loeb worked together on, so many things. Batman Haunted Night, Batman The Long Halloween, its sequel, Batman Dark Victory, the Daredevil Yellow comics, Hulk Gray, a lot of color themed, because also Spider-Man Blue, Captain America White.
Yeah,
It's a lot of those, but all of these titles were very well received. They were noted for how creepy, in particular, like the Long Halloween, the artwork was, which of course we know is kind of where we get our one of our main inspirations for Matt Reeves' The Batman film, which came out earlier this year. Um, because we've both mentioned the Long Halloween. What does the Long Halloween mean to you, Matt?
the Long Halloween for me was like there's a late '80s, early '90s kind of, I don't want to say disappearance of like the graphic novel for a lot of the characters, but it does kind of go away for a little while as far as that prestige format. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my mind, Batman the Cult's one of the last ones of Batman they do. So nowadays every other comic is a different Elseworlds thing of Batman or Superman or Harley Quinn, old man this, blah blah blah. So for them to kind of, like I said, I think that's early, like mid '90s, maybe late '90s, for them to suddenly go like, "Hey, we're going to go back to this thing." It was interesting because usually that's the better storyline. You can push the envelope with the themes, get a little bit more into the longer storyline, and I just thought it was fantastic, and I was really looking forward to it because, like I said on our Matt Reeves review, like Detective Batman is what I like, and that's what that entire comic is. I don't know if there's anything beyond a panel action scene in that entire series.
Yeah, it's not an actually and not actually action heavy story. And yeah, Detective Batman seems to be where we see some of his best stuff. It seems to be the one that the fans enjoy the most is Batman. I mean, he's called the world's greatest detective for a reason. Action Batman's great, but Detective Batman, excuse me as I yawn into the microphone, Detective Batman is really where we see Batman at his best. And I do think The Long Halloween is probably the best example of Batman being a detective amidst any other Batman title that's been released. I know that's a bold statement to make, but I think people would struggle to disagree with me as well. And Tim Sale is such a huge part of that with his work with Jeff Loeb on that story. Tim Sale's a guy who, when you look at his bibliography, it's not a lot of titles specifically, but it was for a lot of long runs. He's maybe got about a dozen specific titles he worked on, but he worked on them pretty much beginning to end. So it's great to see when you're an artist that you get to have that much kind of control, more or less, over how this series is, is setting up the look of a series.
Yes, and especially when you get into this is right before like armored Batman starts,
Mhm.
where he starts becoming like dependent on the gadgets, depending on that kind of stuff. So I do prefer Batman in cloth costume, which is very evident in this run.
Yeah, it's there's a time and a place for
Do I
armored
keep dropping?
gadget Batman, but at the end of the day, this this version of Batman, the detective one, it's far more grounded in reality, as grounded in reality as you can be when we're talking about Batman. But yeah, I mean, it goes without saying that without Tim Sale's, because a lot of what sells Batman the Long Halloween is the imagery, and without Tim Sale, we don't get that. The story itself is fantastic, absolutely, but again, it's all about how it looks, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I felt like the animated version they did of the Long Halloween, I felt like they did a really good job of translating that art style into the movie. Say what you will about the actual execution of the movie itself, but the translation of that art style, I think they really knocked out of the park.
Uh, my final thoughts on this kind of stuff is it's always hard, especially because what I what always kind of scares me or concerns me is like I follow a lot of these people on Twitter, which I think you do as well.
Yeah.
So to see Jim Lee say, "Hey, I hope my friend's gonna be okay," and he's going into the hospital, and just have that moment of like, "Oh man," like for that to be a tweet, and then just go like, "Oh, but he can't be that old," and then think, "Oh no," like depending on when he broke into comics, and you think about Long Halloween is almost 20 years ago, if not more.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of one of those like, oh man. But that was the thing. And then of course to hear like 2 days later he had passed. I think it was kidney failure.
Yeah. Kidney failure.
That's just that's no good for anybody. But it's also when you have such an influential artist who is part of some just amazing storylines. It's not easy when, especially so young, that they're gone, and we just gotta keep trucking along and enjoy what they did, and thank them for what they did, because without, like you said earlier, without the Long Halloween, I don't know if Matt Reeves does what he does with the Batman.
I mean, it's 100%. I mean, the Long Halloween has been a massive inspiration to a lot of Batman. I mean, many Batman directors have taken inspiration in some way, shape, or form from the Long Halloween. Matt Reeves, the Batman, being the most recent and probably the most prominent, especially with certain story points that we hit. And yeah, it's hard to say that without Tim Sale's work and his design and his look of a lot of things, whether or not we'd see that. So our hearts go out to Tim Sale's friends and family and everyone who knew him, everyone who loved him. Obviously, his contribution to the world of Batman has not gone unnoticed. And I think I'm going to go read The Long Halloween after this, and just kind of have another level of appreciation for the artwork. But with that being said, let us know what you guys think. You can follow us both on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Mr. Mike Shea.
You can find me at Mr. J Ninja.
Follow us there, and we'll talk to you guys again next time here on We Are the Batman. Same Bat podcast, same Bat podcast feed.
See you next time.